For page 90, I just titled this practice. This is going to be your properties of logarithms practice. So this is what your page is going to look like when we're done with it. This is that sheet that we worked on in class today with all of your properties on it. A couple of things to be careful of. So I've got warning and be careful. It says the log of x plus y in parentheses is not the same thing as a log of x plus log of y. Remember from class today that this is actually the same thing as log of x times y. That's equal to log of x plus log of y. So please make sure you use your properties correctly. Same thing at the bottom here on this next one. Log of x minus log of y is not the same thing as the logs being divided. Log of x divided by log of y. That is incorrect. Instead, you make one single log. You divide the arguments only, x divided by y, and that's what's equal to the log of x minus log of y. That's what we learned in class today. So this is what the page is going to look like. I'll open these up for you individually in just a moment. So for the first one, we are going to have the product rule. So I just wrote down the product rule here so you can pause the video in order to write that down. Then we have the example that goes with it. And so for this example, we have the log of 3, base 3 of 9x. So 9 is being multiplied by x, so I can split this up into its two pieces. We've got log base 3 of 9 plus log base 3 of x using that property. Now log base 3 of 9 has an actual value to it because 3 to the second power is 9. We would have this as our final answer, 2 plus log base 3 of x. That's it for this one. The next one we have is the quotient rule. So again, pause the video to write down this quotient rule. The example that goes with this one is log base 1/4 of 4/5. You've got the 4 being divided by the 5, so I'll split that up using a subtraction symbol. Log base 1/4 of 4 minus log base 1/4 of 5. Now that I have this split up, this right here has a value 2. 1/4 to what power gives 4? That answer is -1. So my final answer then is -1 minus log base 1/4 of 5. The next one we have is the power rule. Pause the video so you can write this one down. And the example that goes with this, we've got log base 2 of 8 to the x power. Remember, this x is an exponent on the argument, so we're going to bring it down in front of the log. We're going to make that x times log base 2 of 8. Well, log base 2 of 8 is 3 because 2 to the third power is 8. So we're going to have x times 3, which is the same thing as 3x. And finally, this one we actually won't use until a couple days from now. It's called the equality. I just needed a fourth tab here, so I put equality here. This says that if you have two logs that have the same base, b, and you have two arguments, you can, since these two logs are equal, you can set their arguments equal to each other as well. And so we won't use this, like I said, for a couple of days, but since we have it here, we'll go ahead and it's a really easy one. So we have log base 8 of 3x plus 4 equal to log base 8 of 5x plus 2 if you wanted to solve this. Since you have these logs and logs with the same base, you can just simply set their arguments equal. So 3x plus 4 would be set equal to 5x plus 2. You would subtract the 2 from the left, you would subtract the 3x from the right. And so you would get 2x equals 2, and therefore x equals 1. You could plug it back in just to make sure. So if you plug in a 1 here, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 4 is 7. Log base 8 of 7. On the right side, if you plug in 1, 5 times 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7, so you have log base 8 of 7 again. So you know that the answer is correct. Again, you won't need this for the quiz on Thursday, but we will need it Friday, though. Or Monday, actually, Monday. Now, when you open all of these up, I have two examples that we're going to do. So we're going to separate this in half right here, and we'll do two different examples. This will help you do your homework tonight. So the directions say to condense the logarithms into a single log expression. Condense make it smaller, and so we want to make it into one single log. So the first thing that we're going to work with are all these coefficients. The first property that we're going to use is the power property and turn these into powers or exponents on the arguments. So on my first step, you'll notice I brought the 1/2 on the z up, but z to the 1/2 is the same thing as the square root. Then I'll bring my 3 up on the y, and I'll bring my 4 up on the x. Notice I left my minus there where it was. I don't need to bring that up as well. Now these two pieces here can be multiplied using my properties of logs. So I have log squared of z times y cubed. Notice there's only one log here. And then the arguments are being multiplied. And then finally this last one has a subtraction, so I'm going to use my quotient property. And so I will divide by x to the fourth. So we have log of square root of z times y cubed, that was my numerator now, divided by my denominator will be x to the fourth. And this is my final answer. I have done what it said to condense, and I have a single logarithm. So my answer is done for example 1. For example 2, the directions say to expand the expression using properties of logarithms. So this is going to be the expression that I have that I'm going to expand. It says log, and then in parentheses 100b cubed divided by cd to the fourth. The first property that I'm going to use is the quotient property, and in order to do that I'm going to subtract the two logs. Notice the numerator is the first argument of the log, and the denominator is the second argument in the second log. I could try to use the power property now, but you got to be careful because that 3 only belongs to the b and this 4 only belongs to the d, so I actually cannot do that right now. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to separate this first argument here. There's a multiplication, so I can break this up into two logs again, and an addition. I'm going to do the same thing with this one. This is a multiplication, so I'm going to break it up again using addition. So that'll look like this when I do that. So this log, this first one, turns into two separate logs separated by an addition. The second log turns into two other logs, again separated by addition. But notice I have a minus and then a parenthesis. So notice right here that this whole thing got put in a parenthesis because the whole thing is being subtracted. Now we know that log base 10 of 100, remember there's a 10 here even though you don't see it. So 10 to what power gives me 100? That number is 2. I'm going to bring these powers down, so this 3 is going to go out in front of this log. This 4 is going to go out in front of this log. And then finally, I'm just going to simply distribute that negative. So when I do that, I get 2 plus 3 log b minus log c minus 4 log d. And then that is my answer to this problem. That is it for this page on 90. Now you should be able to do your homework just fine.